Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of BearTrack Outfitters podcast. Glad you're here. Glad you're still watching. I appreciate it more than you know. Today, I want to talk about what to look for when booking an outfitter, and secondly, what to do when you're there, when you're at the outfitter. How to do's and don'ts kind of hunting with an outfitter. So there's a couple things, and some of this is, I guess all of this is just based on my experience dealing with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients over the years. Yeah, it seems outfitters are getting more and more popular, and so figured out I'd make a little video kind of from our perspective, and then what to kind of how to navigate that whole process, which can be intimidating. The first one's a simple one. Just ask questions. Ask questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, and any good outfitter should. They shouldn't have a problem with that. They shouldn't care whatsoever. So I get all kinds of questions. I get some people that book with us, they basically what size of bear should I expect to see? How many bears do you average seeing a night? Logistics, usually getting up to camp if they're driving, or if they fly, what airport, and then basically they send me the deposit, and then they send me the final payment, and they show up and they hunt and we go. Other people, it's a little more complicated. It's not necessarily complicated, but it's a little more interaction, which is fine. I don't mind at all. Like I said, any good outfitter won't mind. It's a process for people that it can be intimidating. Most of our hunters are repeats, thankfully. But quite often we get some person who wants to check that that hunt off their bucket list. They're back home they're whitetail hunters, or they're turkey hunters, or they're mainly anglers or whatever, and they have the bucket list. They want to kill a black bear, so they book a hunt and come hunt. So as an outfitter, you kind of have to approach it from that perspective. You have to look at it from their point of view. Yeah, they're spending a lot of money. For some of them it's a lot of money. For others it's not, but it's a lot of money. They're sending it to someone they don't know, in a country they may have never been to, for a trip they've never done, right? So there's a lot of moving pieces, and then you couple that with some horror stories you hear of guys dealing with outfitters, and so you just kind of have to approach it and just do what you can to put them at ease, and to make that process as simple and as straightforward as it can get. If you've ever had an interaction, booking a hunt through us, it's I try to make it as pain-free as possible. And at some point, you ask anyone who's booked a hunt with us, at some point, I will have said in the email, ask away. Ask away. I don't care if you think it may be a stupid question or a mundane question or whatever. If it's on your mind, ask me. I've heard it all, trust me. But just ask away. Ask away. I don't mind anything I can do to make this process more simple and straightforward. I'll do it. So, yeah, it's not hard to answer questions. And it shouldn't be irritating to the outfitter to answer questions. Along with this, try to, how quick do they respond? That's something to take note of. There has to be a little bit of grace, right? Because they may be in the field, or they may be busy, or whatever. So if they don't respond, that moment, it's not the end of the world. I would, give them a few days. But after a week or so, if they still haven't responded, then, shoot them another email. Maybe they missed it, right? Try to give them the benefit of the doubt. But, if they're just not responding, or then that's not a good sign. One of the things I get complimented on is how quick. I mean, I have my emails on my phone if I'm not in my office. So if I'm out and I see an email from a hunt, I try to respond right away. And I've noticed people appreciate that, so then I make an effort to keep doing that. It's not hard. Just take a couple minutes, respond to the email, bam, right? Fire it back. And then they can do with it what they want. But at least you've responded. Stay away from any outfitter that makes a guarantee. This is a big one for me. I would say, to me, it's the, out of all the points I have here, it's the one that probably the second most egregious to me. If they're making a guarantee, unless it's some high fence operation, which I'll keep my opinions to myself, but unless it's some high fence operation, you can't make a guarantee. You simply cannot. It's a wild animal. There's elements, there's things out of your control. So what I tell people is, I've had guys, or looking to book hunts, and, well, what kind of bear can I shoot? Like, I'm gonna get a bear, right? Like, and I tell them, I don't make any guarantees. I said the only thing I can guarantee you is that I'm gonna bust my butt to try to give you the best hunt possible. That's it. That's the only thing I can guarantee. I can only guarantee what I can control, and that is we will work our tails off for you. Whether it's me or my guides, cooking staff, whatever. That I guarantee you. Outside of that, well, I can't control what the animal does. I can't control what the weather does. So, like this spring, it was unseasonably wet, and we couldn't access some of our baits, which was a problem across the province, not just for me. And some of the baits we couldn't access were our best baits. So it's that hinders the way you run camp, because now you're like, wow, golly, like we're down, so many baits. You have this many people in camp. You figure it out. And you get it done. And we had a great spring. At some point, we're just getting ready for fall. We leave this coming Friday, for our fall season. So after that, I might do a show on just kind of the recap of 2022. But yeah, you can't control the animal. You can't control the weather. There's things that are under your control and it's not fair, and I think it's dishonest to make guarantees. So any hunter or any outfitter that guarantees you something, man, I would stay away. In the industry, we have this thing called guide talk, and it comes in many forms, and it's, they can either promise you this or last week we had a guy, like if it's a whitetail outfitter, and and he tells you, yeah, last week we had a guy shoot a 180, and then we had a guy shoot a 175, and then we had all this, we saw these big deer, and just that may be true, but it's not the norm. But he's telling you that to pump, get you pumped up, get you jacked, get you excited, and to build him and his operation up. So it's basically just exaggeration. It's inflated talk. They focus on the positives and the extremes rather than the norm. So that's kind of what guide talk is. And when people make guarantees, it's guide talk. So just be wary of that. This was a number of years ago. We had a guy book a hunt, and he was it 8 guys, for sure 8 guys. The first year they've come back, but they booked a week specifically for their group, and so I'm guiding him and 2 other guys, and 2 of my guides are guiding other groups. So it's this, I won't say his name, but he brings a large group. They book the week for themselves. So my guide has a few, my other guide has a few. I have this guy who organized everything and 2 others. And so we go through the week. We're hunting, and it's a good week. Monday, I picked this guy up from the stand. How'd it go? Nothing. Didn't see a thing. Okay. Tuesday, same thing. Wednesday, same thing. Thursday, same thing. I'm like, golly. Like, what? No. And by this point, everybody else in his group has tagged out. They have gotten their bear. So I'm like, what in the world? He did not see a bear until about 20 minutes left on the last day. He finally saw a 200-pound bear. He didn't shoot it. He didn't want to shoot something like that, but that's the only bear he saw. Now, what? Again, I don't. That's an anomaly, but it happened. So I'm thinking, man, that's not good. A guy organizes a big group. I like groups like that because it's 8 hunts I don't have to sell a year. Before he booked the hunt, he told me, he says, we're looking for a spot to go every year. We want to go every year. And so I was like, okay, this would be nice to have. And they were great guys to have in camp. Oh, they were fantastic. And so after Friday, he sees his first bear with 20 minutes left on the last day. I was like, golly. Well, would have been nice, but it is what it is. So next day, Saturday, they're packing their vehicles, ready to leave. He walks up to me, hands me a deposit. He said, at the time of my life, we're coming back. And so that goes into how we run camp, right? We were straight up with him from the start. I would rather underpromise and overdeliver than make a guarantee that I may or may not be able to fulfill. So, because he asked me, he says, what are the chances we all get bears? I said, I couldn't tell you. I says, and to this day it's true, but we have never had a hunter come up to our camp and not see bears. So, will you see bears? Yes. Will you see the bear you want to shoot or would like to shoot? Or I don't know. I said, like I said, the only guarantee I'll make is we'll bust our tail to make your hunt as fantastic as we can. Other than that, it's out of my control. So I'm not gonna guarantee you anything I can't. I know I can't deliver on. That, and he had a phenomenal time in camp, and so that they've been back every year since, and so that really kind of solidified for me in my mind what we need to do in camp. Next one, like I said, the last one I think is the most egregious. This next one I think is the most egregious thing an outfitter can do. So when you're looking to book a hunt with an outfitter, and one of the things I'm always curious about, I've never, within the industry, I've never booked with an outfitter But how many repeats does he have, or do they have? Because that tells you a lot. If their turnover rate is high, that tells you that there might be something going on there. So I would want to know why that is. So we have at BearTrack, we have about 85 for sure percent repeats in our clients. And I don't like to use the term client because it seems it's too seems too informal for me. So but I'll just use that term now. So, and to me that speaks of how we run camp. We run camp very different than I know a lot of other outfitters do, and I'm a firm believer that is the reason for our success, because we run camp very differently. And so at some point I'll kind of make a day in the life kind of vlog maybe of how we do it. I know a lot of people have been kind of asking for one of those, so I'll probably get around to doing that. I'll probably do it. I might even do it this fall. Spring is usually too busy. But basically, in a nutshell, you don't come up and hey, thanks for the check. There's your cabin. Here's your meals. Let's go get a bear. Drop you off. No. We involve our hunters in the process. So in the morning, you wake up, grab your coffee, your breakfast, you look out on the lake, standing on the porch of your cabin, and it's you once you're finished, you go with whoever your guide is, whether it's one of my guides or me or whatever, and you go out and you check baits, and that to me is one of the most fun things, because then the hunter's like, oh, okay, so when we get to the bait, we're like, what are you looking for here? So I love anybody who knows me. Anytime I can talk bears, I'm in. So I'm like, wow. So we have trail cams, but I don't like to rely solely on them. So when I come in, I kind of look, what are the most used trails, and what are the tracks doing, and how are they approaching the bait, and and so I kind of look for, are there any bite marks in the trees during rut, or is there any, what info can I gather here? And just to involve the hunter in that process, man, you wouldn't believe how much they love that. I don't want you to come to our camp, sit in the cabin all day, and then I take you to the stand, pick you up, feed you, drop you off, and then, no. This is an experience. It's more than a hunt, it's an experience. And so, and even when you tag out, if you tag out, hey, let's jump on a boat, let's go fish, or you can still come with, and we'll go check baits, and if I go check on the hunters, they'll jump in the truck and they'll ride along, and we'll chat the whole time and laugh, and it's an all-around experience, and I am convinced that is the reason we have the success, and the amount of hunters that come every year, and the amount of repeats we have, because we do it that way. You're not just a number to us. You're not just a client. You're not just a paycheck. You're, one of the most rewarding aspects of this job is the relationships and the friendships you form, and you don't get that by treating someone just like another number, just another hunter, right? And that's why I don't like the term client either, because it to me, it maybe sound cheesy, whatever, but it's more than that. So that's why I'm again a firm believer we have the success we do, and it's so if you look in the book and they say, yeah, we don't have that many repeats, or that to me, I probably wouldn't book. I probably wouldn't do it. If he tells me, he says, yeah, most of our hunters are first time, I probably wouldn't do it. at probably, now granted, you get some sheep hunts that are $35,000. You get a few repeats, but not like you would for a whitetail, a waterfowl, or a bear camp or whatever. So, but for your average run-of-the-mill, guided hunt, turkey hunt, whatever, how many repeats do they have? Is to me, that tells a very important story. I'm going to share 2 stories now that may sound like a humble brag, but that's fine. It's my channel. I'll do it if I want. Because to me, they mean so much to me. And again, it speaks to how we run camp. So, first one is we had 2 gentlemen this year that booked with us. And they were in our first week. It was a great week. It was one of those that you live for. The camp chemistry was phenomenal. It's always great, but this week, for whatever reason, it was just, everybody was just, it was nonstop laughs. We were bringing bears into camp, and it was one I'll never forget. But anyway, so as I've said before, the way our camp runs, hunters arrive Sunday, hunt Monday to Friday, depart the following Saturday. So these 2 older gentlemen, they're about to drive home back to Michigan on Saturday, and they come up to me right before they leave, and they say, "Brandon, we just gotta tell you something. This has been our 17th guided bear hunt. They've hunted all over the world, but this is our 17th guided bear hunt, and this is the best it's ever been." And they hand me a deposit. They're like, "We're coming back next year." This was incredible. Now, I didn't guide them. I mean, when you book through BearTrack, you book through me. I'm the one you deal with. But my guide guided them, and he's phenomenal. So credit to him. Credit to our cooking staff. The credit is not due solely to me. I have tremendous guides. I have tremendous cooking staff, kitchen staff. They contribute absolutely to the success of BearTrack as well. So, but they had that. To me, that spoke volumes. That they're like, yeah, getting a bear was fun, but oh man, the laughs in camp and the meals and the joking around and just spending time in the wood, like to them, the whole encompassing experience of hunting at BearTrack, they're like, man, we could have gone home with no bears and still it would have been. So to me, that tells me we're running camp right. I pay very much attention to things like that hunters tell me, and even the criticisms, which are granted rare, but and it's small things like, oh man, I wish I had a way to reach you in the stand because there's no service up there. Well, we're in the bush. What do you expect? So when a hunter says something like that to me, that means a lot. Second instance was this spring again. I'm guiding a group of 4, and Thursday rolls around. I'm bringing one of the guys into the stand, and this is the guy that organized the whole trip. He booked everything. He booked it in 2019, early 2019, but he's going to book for 2020. So we didn't hunt 2019 because he's going to book for 2020. COVID kicks off, so 2020, 2021. So he waited 3 years. So Thursday rolls around. I'm bringing him in to the stand. We're on the quad. He's sitting behind me. The 3 other guys in his group, they've all tagged out already. So we were about to pull into the trail to go into the bait site, and he says, "Hey, Brandon, can you just stop the quad here for a second?" I'm like, all right. So I stopped the quad, shut it off. He says, "You know just as well as I do that I've been waiting 3 years for this." I was like, yep. But in my head, I'm thinking, man, where's this going? He says, I just want to let you know. I could go home right now. And it's been worth every second. You know, regardless of what happens tonight, tomorrow night, I could go home right now and it's been worth every second. He says, we have had an unbelievable time. To me, that means more than you will ever know. Because BearTrack, it's what I do. It's what I live for. It is my full-time job. It's all I've ever wanted to do. And so when I hear someone like that say that is what I live for. Yeah, I love getting people big bears. Don't get me wrong. But when they say that, and I know that I've provided them with an experience, that means the world to me. So, and you know, we've had multiple instances, examples of that, where guys have, you know, come up and, man, like that is, I love the way you run camp. That was so much fun. That was so. Back to my original point. If he doesn't have repeats, if you're looking to book with an outfitter and they don't have a lot of repeats, you have to wonder why that is. There's something going on there that would allow them to not get people coming back every year. You know. Next one would be, are there any hidden fees? Some guys are upfront about it. Some guys are a little sneakier about it. You know, you pay for the hunt, and then you get there, and then, there's a fee for transportation, or there's a fee for trophy care, or there's a fee for this. And so just ask them straight up. I said, when I send you my final payment for the hunt, is that it? So at BearTrack, it's right on our website. If you call or email me, I'll tell you straight up, this is your deposit. 60 days before you arrive in camp, final payment's got to be done. The only thing added, our hunts are this much plus taxes and gratuities. That's it. And so just make sure when you're booking that there are no hidden fees. You don't get to camp and now you're blindsided by, well, what? Like, what do you mean trophy care? Like, you never mentioned that, or you never said that. I don't like that guys do that. Like I said, some are upfront about it, some are sneaky with it. It's just another way to get another couple extra bucks. So, ask about hidden fees. Another one, how many hunters do they run a season? And the reason this one is important is because that directly correlates to how successful or unsuccessful your hunt could be. For example, I am well aware of many outfitters, and this happens more in the States than it does up here, where, you know, they lease 100 acres or whatever, and they run, you know, 12, 15 guys a week in camp for 4, 5, 6 weeks straight. You know, you hand him a check, you basically show up, he gives you. So this is the exact story I was told, because a hunter that hunted with us this fall told me this story, and this is what happened to him. He says he books with his outfitter. It's a whitetail outfitter in Missouri. He says the guy, he pays him his check. He shows up in camp, and there's like 14, 15 other people there. And he's like, holy smokes, this is full. The outfitter hands him a hand-drawn map with stand locations. And he says, there you go. So now you got to go, okay, well, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go. and he just said like it's a free for all. It's the guy does not care, and unfortunately that's quite common. Guys just do not care. They got your check and that's all that matters to them. So be cautious. How many hunters do you run a season? Along with that, what do your weeks look like? And that's a question I've been asked, and I like it. So at BearTrack, I could run 15, 20 people a week if I wanted to as well. But I cap it at 8. Maybe 10. Maybe. For one, finding, do we have enough bears in our area? Is the bear population good enough where I could run 15, 20 people a week? Absolutely. Absolutely. But just think of the experiences if I run half that. As a hunter, think of your experience. If you have twice as many people in camp as opposed to not, right? So that, and it's a far more personal experience, right? To have 15, 20 guys, yeah, it might be fun, but I mean, how do you connect with all of them? How do you interact with all of them on a meaningful basis, right? How do you form relationships with these people that you couldn't otherwise? So with 8, 10 people max, man, camp is a lot of fun. Everybody kind of interacts. It's not too busy. It's not too much. That seems to be the sweet spot. So when you're looking to book, ask, how many hunters do you run a season, and how many hunters do you try to have a week? Find out all this information because, again, we have over 1 million acres that we hunt, and I hunt 8 to 10 people a week. This guy had 100 acres. And he ran 15, 20 people a week. That's not safe. That's not ethical for hunting or business-wise. It's just, to me, it is flat out wrong. But you would be shocked at how many people do it. So just, that's why I say that's an important one to ask. Because that'll tell you not only the quality of hunt that you can expect, regardless of what he says, right? And it goes back to the other, how many repeats does he have? Because he could have a gussied up website, looks real professional. He could have 10, 15, 20,000 followers on social media, and it can look perfect, it can look great. But if he doesn't have many repeats, and he's running that many people through camp, it doesn't matter what his social media looks like. That tells the real story. Because anybody can make themselves look good on social media. Anybody. But the numbers don't lie. So along with that, how many hunters? Ask for references. And try, if you can, get 5, 6, maybe 7 references. And if you can, try to get references from hunters that have been to where you're looking to go and have not harvested an animal. No, I don't consider every time I go hunt, it's a successful hunt for me because I just love being in the woods. But I get what people mean, right? You're paying money, you want to take an animal. I get it, I understand that. So try to get references from people who have gone there and not been successful, not harvested an animal. And if they've gone back, why? If they haven't, why? Because it's very easy for an outfitter to send you, oh, well, here's 3 references and fill your boots, and it's 3 of his buddies, right? So, we have, I get this question often for references, and I don't mind. I don't. It's not hard. So if an outfitter gives you grief about that, that's a red flag. It's not a hard thing to do. We have guys that come up to our camp every year from all over, and they've flat out said, "Hey, if you ever need a reference, give them my number." And I know I don't even have to ask. I can just, yeah. But I always do, right? Hey, so-and-so, this guy was looking for a reference. You mind if I give him your number? Yeah, absolutely. Go right ahead, obviously. Right? So it's not hard. I have numbers from everybody that's ever attended our camp because I keep records. And then when I send the receipt, I keep, I have all your info on there. So if all of a sudden someone does want a reference from someone who's come to our camp and not shot a bear, I can reach out to that hunter and say, hey, so-and-so is looking for your number for this reason. Do you mind if I give it to him, right? So it's not a hard thing to do. So if you're looking for an outfitter, that would be a big one to ask. You get another one you get is, what are the average size of animal taken? Because again, they can make it look great on social media. They can make it look great on their website. But what's the average? Because then that'll give you an idea of the reality of the hunt, right? I mentioned before guide talk. It's I can tell you about the guys that shot 550, 600 pound bears. I can tell you that till I'm blue in the face, and it has happened. Guys have, but that's not the norm. So, what's the average size of bear taken? So, or not even bear or whitetail taken, because that could get tricky. Because I know I've put I've put hunters on the stand, and they tell me till they're blue in the face that they're gonna wait for a trophy bear. I throw them in the stand on Monday. Bear walks in, boom! Shoot a 200 pound bear. It's like, well, all right. That's not a trophy bear, but okay. And, if they're happy, it's fair enough. It is what it is. If you're happy, great. It's a legal bear, whatever. But when I think trophy bear, I'm thinking, we're getting 450 plus. So, and on that bait, there's been trophy bears, legit trophy bears on there. But this bear comes in, they get excited. They don't know how to field judge bear. Looks big to them, and bam. So kind of ask, what's the average size of animal, of whitetail or bear. And hopefully he's honest with you. Here's one that kind of, it's not a major thing, but it's something I look out for in the industry. And that's, how do they talk about other outfitters? I have never felt the need, nor wanted to bash other outfitters. If they're doing something that I think is unethical, like running 15, 20 people on a 100-acre plot, I'll say it. But I'm not going to... But I didn't say who it was, right? I'm not gonna, for the sake of, needing to sell a hunt, I'm not gonna bash so-and-so or whatever. I don't play that game. I'm not in junior high anymore. I don't need to gossip. I don't need to bash other guys. And there's other outfitters in Manitoba here even that I don't have a lot of respect for, but it is what it is. It does no one no good for me to start gossiping and sharing that. To me, it looks bad on the outfitter who's doing it. I was at a show down in Iowa years back. We had a booth down there, and I remember I was just like, man, I gotta walk around. So my guide man the booth, I got up and I just was gonna do a couple laps and looking at all the other booths there, and I walked by this whitetail booth from, I don't even remember where. It doesn't matter. And he's from Kansas, because I remember there's a lot of Kansas outfitters there, which just makes sense. So I just remember walking by, and there's people standing at the booth with stuff in their hand, I'm assuming brochures from other booths, and they said, well, I just talked to this other guy in Kansas, and, I kind of like what he's doing, and, kind of how do you operate? And this guy proceeded to not answer his question by saying, oh, well, the way we do things is blank, right? He goes, oh, that other guy? No, I wouldn't go there. He doesn't. And he just proceeds to berate this other guy. Whether he knows him or not, I'm not sure. But it's like, I'm thinking, man, if I was that hunter, I would have walked away. No, I asked you how you operate. I didn't ask your opinion on the other guy. I'll form that for myself. I talk to him. I'll make my own decision, right? I don't need you to gossip about him, and because to me that just shows insecurity. At BearTrack, I know what we offer. I know what we can deliver on, and I'm gonna if you want to book a hunt, I'll tell you how we do things, and I'll answer your questions. But I'm not interested in talking about how other guys do it or berating other guys. So to me, I don't know. Maybe it's just a personal thing. If I'm looking to book a hunt and outfitter, and the majority of what he's telling me is what other guys are doing wrong, well, that's not what I asked. So that's just me. A couple things to do once you've booked with an outfitter and you're there. This one should be brief, this section, but it's not gonna lie. I do have a couple pet peeves that happen. Thankfully, not very often, but they do. First one: don't guide the guide. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that, but it's true. You're there for a reason. You hired our services for a reason. Here at BearTrack, it's literally all we do. It is what we do. So when I have guys come up to camp who, they have a bear bait back home in wherever they're from, and why wouldn't you do this? And and if they're genuinely curious why we do it the way we do it, I'm all about talking about it. Absolutely. I have no issues talking about it. But when I get the sense that, they have a better way of doing it than we do it, that's when I get a little bit irritated. Because again, that's all we do. We don't have one bear bait on Dad's back 40 that we hunt on the weekends, right? Like, we're killing 40, 50 bears a year, at least. So until you do that, until you manage that many bait sites, that many bears, maybe keep your opinion to yourself, right? I've yet, because what works for you doesn't necessarily work for me. For example, I had a hunter once tell me that we should set up our barrels differently. I was like, okay. So the way we do it, we have metal 55-gallon drum, punch a hole in the bottom, eye bolt, cable run through the eyelet around the tree, and then we just drill holes like a salt and pepper shaker around the barrel. Bear can tip the barrel, he rolls it around, right? That's the way we do it. Long story short. He said we should strap a barrel to a tree and cut a massive hole right in the middle. I'm obviously aware of that setup. I've seen it many times. Personally, I'm not a fan of it. But, hey, if it works for you, great. So I just said, okay, well, we run 52 bait sites at our camp. Like, the amount of bait we would go through in a setup like that is astronomical. We still go through a lot of bait, but when it gets spoiled from rain or rodents get in there, raccoons get in there, skunks get in there, when bears can just scoop out bait and then a lot of it just hits the ground and ferments and they don't touch it anyway, right? There's a lot of... So I just said, yeah, that might work for you at home, but that's not the most efficient way to do it when you have 50 some bait sites. So Just you're there for a reason. Trust your guide. Trust your guide. Don't judge your guide. To me, it's disrespectful. Yeah, you're there for a reason. I don't know how else to put it. You booked that hunt. You hired him for. Don't go there and try to teach him. Right, because if it was that easy, then you wouldn't have booked the hunt in the first place. So, next one is something I kind of alluded to it before about the guarantees, and it's something I say in my orientation to the hunters every Sunday night when they get to camp. Guided doesn't mean guaranteed. Just because you wrote an outfitter a check doesn't mean you're guaranteed an animal. Again, high fence aside, we're talking real hunting here. Just because you paid the guy some money doesn't mean you're now guaranteed an animal. It's still a wild animal. It's still nature. There are no guarantees, and anyone who's hunted for any period of time will know that. Tip your guide. Tip your guide. This may seem like a weird one to some, but hear me out. Don't base the amount of tip you give on whether or not your hunt was successful. And the reason I say that is because, as I've alluded to before, there are no guarantees. So, little short story here. My father-in-law won a guided fishing trip here in Manitoba. So he took me and my my brother-in-law. We went on this a 1 day guided fishing trip. And so before the trip, he says, if you want to look after, I'll pay for food and stuff. He says, if you want to look after tip, you kind of know how that works a little more. I said, okay. And so what I looked for, I didn't look for if we were catching, we need to catch this many fish, or we need to do this, or whether we had a day where we shot the lights out or we got skunked. To me, that was irrelevant. What I looked for was how hard was he working to give us the best trip possible. That's what I looked for, and I felt he did. I felt he did a great job, and so we tipped well. So when you book it with an outfitter and you have a guide, that's what I suggest you look for. That's what I recommend. Because, he can, if he's busting his tail, if he's getting up early, if he's scouting, if he is doing everything in his power to make your hunt successful, well, at the end of the day, it's still hunting. It is what it is. There's only so much you can do as a guide. I know that from 18 years experience. There's only so much you can do. So, at the end of your trip, if you're for some reason you're unsuccessful, you didn't get your animal, don't be like, oh, I'm not tipping him, or I'm not tipping him that much because I didn't get anything. Well, did he try? Did he bust his tail trying to get you an animal? So that's what I recommend you look for. And I've had guys, and I hate it when people ask, what would be a good tip? What's a good tip? Well, how do I answer that? Right? So basically I tell them, whatever you feel it was worth to you. Whatever you feel it was worth. I don't know. I can't make that decision for you. I've had guys, and it also depends on the hunter, right? You get some guys who save up for a bucket list hunt. They've been saving for years. They come on this hunt. They tip you what they can. And that's fine. That is 100% fine. They're still, it's given what they can. And if they could have given more, a lot of times they would have. But it's fine. And then you get guys that come up who are, multi-million-dollar CEOs, and They throw money around, and so you get all kinds. But tip your guide what you think his services are worth. And again, don't be stingy. Just like tipping anything, a waitress, tax, whatever. Don't be stingy. So, I've had guys tip me nothing. I don't pay the I pay the outfitter. I don't tip. Well, I guided you, but anyway, I've had guys tip me $20. And a lot of times it's because they just don't know, right? They're new to guided hunts. They just don't know. And I've had guys tip me $4, $5, $6 cash, right? So it varies. So I hope that helps. If you have any other things you feel I missed or should address, comment down below. If you like, share, and subscribe, and you appreciate what I'm doing, I would like that. I appreciate it very much. And I hope this helps. I hope it gives a little bit of clarity and hopefully some confidence if you're looking to book a hunt. So until next time, get in the big woods.